Hey guys, so we're going to look at CGC, CURA, IAN, HARV, CL, and CWEB. Just want to check in on SPY first thing. So obviously we know that we have not been correlating very strongly with SPY anyways in the MJ sector. However, sometimes correlations can go the opposite way, which is that when SPY is bullish and we were bearish, and then if SPY decides to turn on us, then it could accelerate things. So we do have to keep an eye out on it. We saw Netflix had bad earnings, so this is the 12-hour chart for SPY, but it basically shows the daily uptrend, which is that it's still intact. So if we do bounce tomorrow on SPY and get that higher low on the daily time frame, then that would only potentially help some of these other names. And if we head to lower lows on the daily time frame, then just a thing to keep in mind, especially CGC, which does seem to be a little bit more correlated, although not that bad today. CGC, so hourly uptrend still very much intact. We rejected from the 100 period hourly, which was also the gap fill territory, still holding those hourly higher lows. Again, not seeing like any significant dumping after hours. So no worries for the bulls, looking to hold kind of a weird range here, but let's say call it 35.75 in order to maintain that hourly uptrend. And we do know that the daily is going to top out of this bounce. And like Dan mentioned a few times, the higher that we go on the daily time frame, the more reasonable that we get a higher low when we do pull back. So we'll see where we top out tomorrow. We are trading slightly lower now. 33.38 was the low. So if that was our top, then it is still a potential bear flag. We can see lower. We can see the weekly time frame is potentially going to bounce off this 5 period depending how we close, and we will look for that. Obviously, this is just an oversold bounce for now, and we need to see a higher low and a higher high for confirmation to see a weekly bounce further play out, but we might not get that. So just to be aware of that, the volume is pretty weak on the bounce compared to the bear volume on the way down. So CURA, big name for the day, news. So anything over 860, here's that 860 level here, 864, we knew was going to give us our higher highs. So I got in, I managed to get some market buys here at 902. So that was a fairly good fill and just wrote it out the rest of the day. It didn't close weak or anything, so people were wondering why. We accelerated very quickly out of the gates, and it's hard to get continuation when you get so far away from some of those EMAs. And now the EMAs are finally taking their time and catching up. So there is potential for continuation if we can have this as a higher low and just bounce off these hourly exponential moving averages. That would be a great thing. Here's where somebody noticed all that accumulation in that ascending triangle and what a breakout it had. But here's the other thing that I have been talking about. So first of all, I had mentioned 815 a lot of times. That would have been a phenomenal entry, it turned out, on the weekly time frame. And actually, let's show that weekly time frame. And so we could see really nice bounce right off that 50 period exponential on the weekly time frame, holding it close. And we'll see how far this bounce gets. We are testing exponential moving averages on the weekly time frame right now, and we will be looking for that weekly higher low, but that's anything compared to all-time highs. So that's not really going to give us a good indication. So we're going to look to the shorter time frames for better indications. 4 hour, you can see we rejected from the 100 period, and this is very healthy consolidation. It's the same thing as the daily. We have the daily 150 lining up right there, giving us a bit of resistance. So we're going to try to see continuation. So the biggest thing for the bulls is continuation, but just remembering that the 4 hour time frame is healthy. So if we don't break the high of yesterday first thing or early on tomorrow, then we can just be looking for a healthy inside bar in the daily time frame and then see continuation. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, although it would be better if it was tomorrow because that would show real strength and everybody would like that and would cause a little bit more FOMO than we got today. Obviously, anonymous selling a ton there, but it also highlights something else. So had you been buying on weakness every time that the daily got oversold, yes, you would have been maybe break even had you got in the 10s now. But had you been buying on weakness on the way down, you're sitting in a more panicked position on this entire way. So somebody's mentioning, well, why sentiment's changing? Well, when the chart changes, sentiment changes. And I've been saying all along that I'm not going to start buying and scaling in on weakness unless it was a key level, in which case 815 was perfectly reasonable. But other than playing those oversold bounces, if you're wanting anything for a longer term hold, then buying on supreme weakness before we get any momentum change could just see you go down. So if you bought here and wanted to hold and then it went lower and then it went lower, and you're thinking you want this as your year's out hold, it's okay to wait to have momentum at your back. I had bought here the other day at 9.05 thinking that maybe we were going to break this wedge. We had this little bit here. We didn't end up breaking it. I stopped out at 8.97. I took a tiny percent loss, and now I bought back in at 9, which is essentially the same price, but now I had the momentum behind my back, and I didn't even have to wait more than an hour to be like 10% in profit. And we know that these runs can go huge, so it's okay to give up a little bit of that risk in order, or a little bit of that grinding down, waiting for, for 2 months now in order to have a better entry. So sentiment shifts when the charts shift. We get fundamental news that can change the sector, and it makes a big difference. IAN, same thing. So IAN, scaling in on weakness. I mean, you can be scaling in at 5 on weakness. We've come down from the 8. So we're now 50% down, and it can be very demotivating to scale in. We are still a weekly bear flag potential. We're still trading under, but I like that this bounced. So what I like is the bear flag followed through, and then we got that little dump and extra bounce. 4-hour time frame is bullish right now. We did get a higher high. So we were looking to break 389. So had you been scaling in the 4s, you could still have a better average waiting for a trend change, and now you have a clear stop to go with. So I did take some at the end of the day on this back test of the 5-period exponential moving average on the 4-hour time frame down in the low 380s, and I will be looking for continuation. Again, that's going to be dependent on multiple things. I'd expect first resistance to be up here at 415, and then we're going to be looking up at 447. Anything over 357 will give us a higher low on IAN. And like I said, weekly time frame, we have to also close over that 5-period exponential moving average, which is going to be up at 407. And if we can get some strength tomorrow, maybe we could test that the same way that CURA was overextended. Obviously, IAN is not. So hopefully we can get a little bit more follow through on IAN. HARV. So we were looking at some of the other names that were having a good day. Initially out of the gates, really nice move, gave back the whole entire move and then some. So the way that we were judging CURA was if it could set a new high. HARV did get those new highs, and then it lost those lows. It lost exponential moving averages, lower high, lower low. As soon as we lost this lower high pattern, 738, and then the low of the day, 730, that was kind of it. Everyone just ran away from that one. So daily time frame, let's check that out. And it's just a huge upper wick rejecting from the 20 period, which has been kryptonite. You could see it rejecting here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6 times in a row, heading straight to lower lows, daily back to oversold. So have to be patient on HARV, because that obviously has not, this was a nice little monthly bear flag that played out. So have to be patient for that momentum to come back there as well. I did want to do MMEN, even though it's not up here. So looking at MMEN, we also had profit taking on MMEN. So we're still looking for that weekly higher low, but that's still anything over 254. Obviously haven't found it yet. You could see same thing, rejecting from exponential moving averages. We need to close over them, start them curling back up, and then go up and break 362. If we break 362 on MMEN, obviously that's going to be really nice. But the way that we'll know that weekly higher low is in is when we start setting little daily higher lows and higher highs as well. So right now, resistance to break is going to be up at 308 and 310, and then 340. Okay, Cresco Labs. So Cresco Labs, huge bounce winner. It looked like it was going to be the one that had maybe the best chance of follow through, and then it just gave back the entire move. Bottom fishing play off of 1149 potentially coming up. See if we can hold that daily higher low, increasing bear volume today. So it looked like whatever made CURA go up definitely took away a little bit from the other names and made them go down. Weekly time frame for CL has a lot of room still. So some of the other ones gave back a lot more than this one did. So definitely still potential for downside on this, but 1149 is a pretty decent bottom fish coming up. With that level below that, we're looking at 1026. CWEB, still very healthy. This is a weekly bull flag on CWEB. So we have our higher low, higher high. CWEB is the most bullish of all the names. And what we're just looking for is to hold. We want to hold this 2079 level, which we are holding by 3 cents each time, and we need to go up and break 22.50. If we could break 22.50, we'll be looking up at 23.50, 24.49. So it seems like kind of every dollar up in the 50 range is going to be that thing. And we'll see if we can confirm this weekly bull flag. And if we can, then we'll just be looking up for that monthly lower high. So that's what we got for the MJ sector. I know, you know what, I'll take a quick look, because definitely APHA and APH and ACB, we're seeing some significant moves today. So let's see if they were able to hold them into the close. And they did, rejecting from the 20 period exponential moving average. The volume was all yesterday, so definitely weird volume going on yesterday. And we do need to see if we can continue this bounce. Otherwise, it still just is a lower high on the daily time frame, and that's going to be anything under 683. So we're still going to need that higher low and higher high if we want to kind of negate this little monthly bear flag and then have it be one of those bear breaks, fake outs, and then up. And let's check in on ACB, because it also had some weird volume going on. And it also had that weird, very huge bull volume yesterday. So seeing continuation, this is good news for it. Still rejecting from the 20. It wants to hold some of these exponential moving averages. So if we want to see continuation on this move, we don't want to come back down and lose the 5. Then we'll be looking back down for a real high or low somewhere lower. We want to hold that and then see continuation, get these curling up, and maybe even get a test towards 772 again at that 50 period. But again, if SPY is doing bad things, then we do have to be aware of that. So keeping that on the back burner, especially because like Netflix earnings were pretty bad, and there's a lot of tech earnings coming up, and Netflix just dropped from 362 to 315. So just something to keep on the back of your mind. We don't want anyone to get caught with their pants down. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys tomorrow for what will hopefully be a bearish SPY day and a bullish US MJ day. That would just be ideal. But we'll see what we get, and we'll play the charts.